In the next few minutes, you'll be amazed by this video. It's all about the golden numbers that are important to many people. Make sure to watch carefully. Robert Edward Grant talks about the number 9 in math. He says that when you add 9 to any other number and then keep adding the digits of the result together until you get just one digit, the 9 seems to disappear. For example, if you add 9 to 4, you get 13. But if you add 1 and 3 together, you get 4 again, which is the original number you added 9 to. Another cool thing about 9 is that 0.999 repeating equals 1. Mathematicians like Leonhard Euler have proven this. It means 0.999 isn't just close to 1, it actually is 1. This makes 9 act like both 0 and 1. Another interesting thing Robert talks about is 0 raised to the power of 0. Some might think it should be 0, but mathematicians often define it as 1. This might not make sense at first, but if you look at numbers close to 0 raised to their own powers, you see that as they get smaller, the result gets closer and closer to 1. The idea that 0 raised to the power of 0 equals 1 tells us something deep. From nothing, everything can come. These examples make us think deeply about life and the universe. They show us that math isn't just about numbers and formulas. It's also about bigger ideas like creation, unity, and existence. Understanding these math ideas might help us understand divine things or how reality works. Math could be the language for deep insights and maybe even understanding how divine creation works. The link between math, philosophy, and spirituality shows how everything is connected through numbers. Another interesting idea is square roots. They're often connected to deep meanings. The square root of 2 is said to represent the spirit of 2, like infinity. That's because it's a never-ending decimal, which is like having endless conversations from the past and future all packed into one number. The square root of 3 is like the core of the number 3, which is connected to the idea of the Trinity in Christianity. It shows wholeness and spirituality. This idea gets even better when we link the sum to the golden ratio. It's a super important math thing found in nature, art, and buildings. It shows how the universe balances and grows naturally. This growth follows patterns like the Fibonacci sequence, which shows how things grow from simple rules. Now, let me show you some numbers that keep popping up everywhere in the universe. The number 432 is special in many cultures and beliefs. For example, the diameter of the moon is said to be 2,160 miles, which is 432 times 5. Some musicians and listeners like the sound of 432 Hz because they think it's more soothing than the usual 440 Hz used in modern music. In Hindu beliefs, the Kuga, an age known for moral decline, is said to last 432,000 years. People also connect the Great Pyramid of Giza with 432, like its perimeter being around 43,200 when the base length is 756 feet. The number 12 is super important. It's linked to lots of cool stuff like the sky, the months, the zodiac signs, and even the moon and sun movements. Long ago, people noticed 12 main stars in the north and 12 in the south. A day has 24 hours, split into 12 daytime hours and 12 nighttime hours. It's like a mix of sacred and regular stuff, kind of like 3 times 4. Also, 12 is the sum of 5 and 7, which are lucky numbers. In Christianity, Jesus had 12 buddies, and the Bible mentions 12 Israel tribes. People in different cultures use 12 for things, like measuring with 12 inches in a foot. So, basically, 12 is a big deal. The number 33 is important in many beliefs. In Scottish Freemasonry, it's the highest spiritual degree. It's a special number, showing alignment and spiritual awareness. Jesus and Buddha were both 33 when significant events happened in their lives. Some cultures believe the human spine has 33 bones. Ancient Vedic religion mentions 33 deities. Alchemy sees 33 as a point of balance and change. Rosicrucianism values 33 for spiritual awareness. In Kabbalah, there are 33 paths on the tree of life, each showing spiritual growth. Some see the Earth's axial tilt, about 23.5 degrees, combining with a perfect right angle at 33 degrees to symbolize harmony. In Hinduism, it's believed that the outside world should show what's happening inside us because they're connected. They think the number 108 is super important because it's the distance between our body and our divine inner self. According to something called Ayurveda, which means the science of life, our body has 108 special points where energy flows. So, when people repeat mantras 108 times, it's like they're going on a journey to find their best spiritual self. Each time they say the mantra, they feel closer to the divine part of themselves. This number is also important in meditation. There are 108 different ways to breathe in yoga, which is thought to help people reach enlightenment. Some say that if you can breathe only 108 times in a day, you'll be super calm inside. Most people breathe about 21,600 times a day, with half of those breaths being related to the sun and the other half to the moon. In Hinduism, there are 7 special energy points in the body called chakras. One of them, the heart chakra, has 108 energy lines that help people be more loving and kind. Hindu books have 108 special writings called Upanishads, and the Sanskrit alphabet has 54 letters, each with qualities of both boys and girls. Even Buddhism thinks 108 is cool. They say it's connected to things like bad desires, lies, and being confused. And in astrology, 108 shows up when you look at how the sun, earth, and moon move together. The number 60 is important because it represents many things. It's the number of seconds in a minute and the number of minutes in an hour. This system came from the Babylonians long ago. In car racing, it's the time it takes to travel the first 60 feet on a drag strip. It's also the speed at which cars accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour, which is a common measurement of performance. In the Bible, it appears several times, like when Isaac was 60 years old when his sons were born. In Jewish law, there's a rule that says if you mix kosher and non-kosher ingredients, as long as the kosher ones are 60 times more than the non-kosher ones, the mixture is still considered kosher. The ancient Sumerians counted in groups of 12, because humans have 12 finger segments, 3 for each finger. The moon completes its phases cycle in about 29.5 days, which is roughly 12 times in a year. The Babylonians also used the number 12 for their calendar, and they divided a circle into 360 degrees, each degree having 60 smaller segments called minutes, and each minute further divided into 60 seconds, and so on. The number 7 is super important in many religions like Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. In the Bible, God made the world in 6 days and took a break on the 7th day. There are 7 days in a week, 7 continents, 7 colors in a rainbow, 7 chakras, and 7 wonders of the world. The Bible talks about 7 deadly sins, 7 layers of purgatory, and 7 sacraments in the Catholic Church. In the book of Revelation, there's talk about 7 stars, 7 trumpets, 7 seals, 7 angels, 7 churches, and 7 plagues. Street. Thomas Aquinas talked about 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit: wisdom, understanding, knowledge, counsel, fortitude, piety, and fear of the Lord. Genesis 2:3 says God blessed the 7th day. In Genesis 41:47, it says the land produced a lot of stuff for 7 years. Exodus 13:6 mentions eating bread without yeast for 7 days and holding a festival on the 7th day. Revelation 1:20 says the 7 stars represent angels of 7 churches and 7 lampstands represent the churches. Sacred geometry, like the seed of life, has 7 circles, representing stuff like creation and rest. In Hinduism, there are 7 heavenly fortresses, 7 sun rays, 7 seasons, 7 gods, 7 races of people, and 7 parts of the world. The Hindu sun god, Surya, rode a chariot with 7 horses. Hinduism also talks about 7 upper worlds and 7 underworlds. Pi is a special number in math. It's the number you get when you divide the distance around a circle by the distance across it. It's about 3.14159. Pi is used in lots of math and science formulas. It's a weird number because you can't write it exactly as a fraction. People often use 22 divided by 7 to get close to pi. But even if you keep writing its decimal, it never ends and doesn't repeat in a pattern. Pi is also a transcendental number. This means it can't be found by adding, multiplying, or doing any math with whole numbers. This also means you can't use a compass and straight edge to make a square with the same area as a circle. No matter how big or small the circle, pi always stays the same. That's why it's called a constant. People have been fascinated by pi for a long time. One way to find it is by using a wheel and measuring, but that only gives a rough estimate. Another way is to use shapes like polygons to make an approximation. But the more sides the shape has, the closer you get to pi. The golden ratio, represented by the Greek letter phi, has fascinated artists for a long time. It's a special number around 1.618, often seen as a key to making things look beautiful and balanced in art. This ratio, roughly 1 to 1.618, is used in creating pleasing compositions in art. It's found in nature and has been used in art and building design for a really long time because it just looks right. Ancient Greek math people started looking at it because it showed up a lot in shapes like pentagons and pentagrams. One story says a guy named Hippasus in ancient Greece found out that the golden ratio wasn't a normal number or fraction, which surprised people who followed Pythagoras. Some old math books like Euclid's Elements have cool stuff about the golden ratio too. Since the early 1900s, scientists have been curious about the number 137. A Swiss psychiatrist named Jung and a physicist named Wolfgang Pauli wondered if this number holds a special meaning. They believed it could be the key to understanding the universe, connecting ideas in physics and the human mind. They thought that maybe 1 divided by 137 was the exact value of something called the fine structure constant. This constant, which is around 137, is important in physics. It relates to electromagnetism, quantum mechanics, and gravity. Back in 1929, an astronomer named Arthur Eddington even suggested that 137 might be a fundamental number. He thought it could be found by just thinking about it, without any experiments. But not everyone agreed with him. As time went on, experimental measurements showed that 1 divided by 137 wasn't exactly 137. But in 2021, scientists in Paris made a very accurate measurement. They found that 137 is really close to 137.036, with an accuracy of 81 parts per trillion. The Earth leans at a slant of 23.5 degrees while it goes around the Sun. This tilt makes it lean in one direction all the time. Because of this tilt and how much sunlight different parts of the Earth get, the seasons change. When the North Pole leans toward the Sun, it's summer in the north and winter in the south. This happens because of the Earth's tilt and how big it is. Its spinning motion also does something called gyroscopic precession because of this tilt and its big size. A cube is like a box with 6 sides, and each side is a square. These squares are all the same size and shape. When you open up or flatten a cube, you can see all 6 square sides. They can be arranged in different ways. In science, there are tiny particles called quarks. They are the building blocks of protons and neutrons, which are inside atoms. There are 6 types of quarks, called flavors. They come in 3 pairs, each pair having similar properties. These quarks interact with each other through a strong force, using particles called gluons. This interaction makes subatomic particles act in complex ways. The number 6 is important in numerology. It represents harmony, balance, and nurturing. Some people see it as a symbol of duty and caring for others. In religion and myths, 6 is connected to ideas of creation, cosmic order, and balancing opposing forces. When the number 6 appears, it makes us think about how everything is connected and how life goes in cycles. In ancient times, people like the Egyptians counted the year as having 365 days. Then Julius Caesar made a new calendar called the Julian calendar. In this calendar, every year that's divisible by 4, like 1996, 2000, and 2004, gets an extra day. So, on average, each year has 365 days plus a quarter, which equals 365.25 days. But the real length of a year on Earth is closer to 365.2422 days. To keep our calendar in line with the seasons, most years have 365 days, but about 1 out of every 4 years has 366 days. The speed of light in space, known as c, stays the same no matter what. It's about 299,792,458 meters per second, or roughly 300,000 kilometers per second. That's super fast. It's also about 186,000 miles per second, or a whopping 671 million miles per hour. According to Einstein's special theory of relativity, nothing can go faster than light. That means no matter our energy with information can zip through space faster than light does. DNA is like a tiny building block for life. It's made of little parts called nucleotides, which are made of 4 different bases: cytosine, guanine, adenine, and thymine. These bases stick to a sugar and phosphate group. They pair up, A with T and C with G, like puzzle pieces fitting together. This pairing is important because it carries genetic information.